think SK is actually a pretty good opponent. Like, their bot lane has been playing really well. Their top laner is also really good. Same for their mid jungle. I think it's a team that no one expected to perform this well, but they are actually performing pretty well, and it's actually a really solid team. They just beat Vitality 2-0 really convincingly. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a hype match.
The final chapter is being read. The fish has been rooted, but the first blood has been secured by Elyoya onto Markoon.
I think me and Markoon, we are similar in the way that we both like to look for creative ganks, and we are trying to get those ganks however like we can get them. But in mid game, I can move the map better, and same for early game. I mean, overall, I think I'm a better player than him, yeah.
I love how Elyoya started off about the jungle matchup, and he was like, no, bro's good, we're like lane focus trying to get the ganks off, but overall in the mid game better. Actually early I'm also better, actually late I'm also better. Also, I just stomped you. Like it just went from bad to worse.
Yeah, I love the confidence that we see from Elyoya. The man, ever since he came on to the split, I think, rather entered the league, he's been very dominant in the jungle position, and I think that he's looking to continue that streak in today's series.
He has. Broxah, we talked so much about jungle coming into the day, the different styles that Markoon and Elyoya like to field. What has been your impression of them overall? And, well, obviously Elyoya has the upper hand because they're on match point, but what are your impressions?
I think they've both had their moments really just changing from game to game. First it was Elyoya, then Markoon, now Elyoya kind of strikes back with a bit of help from his bot lane, of course. But ultimately, it's been really cool seeing both of them have their moments. Blue side seems to have a solid advantage so far, just coming off of the bat from draft. And these guys are just taking advantages of any little mistake they see on the map. And I think their proactivity, their playmaking ability is really impressive.
Quite a big difference between the Sejuani game out of Markoon, though, and the others we've seen today, right? Is that something we should be concerned about, or?
I mean, honestly, I think a lot of this series is being influenced. Well, I was going to say by bot lane, but that might be more my recency bias, because when I think to the first two games, it was actually all about the top lane and the jungle influence there. So I think that the junglers are just kind of working with the tools that they've been presented, and I think that when they're given good tools, they find great success. And to me, I think especially when we look back at last game, it was just so much easier for Elyoya to find early leads because of what they were doing down in the bot lane.
So it was all draftive?
Yes.
I would say to an extent. I think if you end up in a situation where you give away any of the top 4 junglers, this being the 4th in Vi, and you have to take something random, really, like Wukong, Java, and whatever you come up with, then, you know, things are not looking good for you, unless you're G2, of course, then it's different.
Then maybe. You did mention the bot lane kills, and of course, we'd be amiss not to mention the Draven game that we just saw. It was over before it began. You know, he got his first bounty, and then that was it, right, Vedius? MAD just kept on going.
The initial plays actually looked a little bit shaky and scary for Carzzy, but yeah, the moment that Elyoya found his opportunity, the plays were beautiful. It was great focus and kind of what we expected. They tunneled towards getting the bot side of the map ahead, and the moment that the Draven was ahead, he's an incredibly difficult champion to slow down.
I really wonder what happened in SK scrims leading up to this weekend, because what they're showing us with the Varus earlier, now the Lucian Nami, it's just not how we've seen them performing. It's not how they got to this point. So there must be some recency bias going on from their scrims, maybe getting some fake data here, but I just don't want to see them drafting this way anymore. We need the late game, the scaling bot lane. That's how they succeed.
I think that SK were caught off guard by this Draven Nautilus bot side, because it seemed to me that the fact that they prioritized that Lucian Nami said that you don't have a good answer into what we can do. And the fact that they were able to bring this out and then play it so well, I think is something that SK didn't expect. But even on Euphoria, we heard them say that if they play the early games like they have been up until this point, they will not be able to win the whole thing. And they want to have a chance at winning the whole thing. So I respect them attempting to challenge in the early game, but it felt to me like last game, they just didn't have the tools to go toe-to-toe with MAD in the early.
I think if you're SK, you know that it's Carzzy and Hylissang on the other side, and you pick Lucian Nami blind. You should know what's coming.
Yeah, you should, yeah.
Either you've been really lazy in your preparation, because Nautilus is one of Hyli's prime picks right now. Carzzy has always been able to play Draven. Like, either you're just too lazy, or you haven't prepared well enough, because this is something that MAD is super happy about.
Of course.
And I think, it's so important to make sure that Hyli is not able to be unleashed, that Carzzy cannot take over on the Draven, because we just saw what happened. Like, don't don't give them a draft they're satisfied with when it can easily be avoided.
It's a good point, and I think when you're playing this Mad Lions, I feel like as SK, maybe you feel a little bit deflated because, as you said, it was a lot of top lane focus with Elyoya. The first one, it was Nisqy popping off, then you have this one in the bot lane, maybe something they should have foreseen, but there seems like there's a lot to do. But they did it once before, right? In Game 2, they were on the blue side, they are on the blue side once again, and they got a draft that they were completely familiar with, and that was to playing towards all of their strengths.
I agree. And I think that now that they're back on the blue side, this is setting them up for success because it seems that when you're on red, you're forced to ban away the Ashe. Something like Maokai is also something you're forced to ban away with. So just by being on blue, it gives you more room to get your comfort picks. And I think that SK, they don't even necessarily have to win the early game. They just have to neutralize it because we've seen that they are an incredible team fighting team. And I think that they have the ability to go toe-to-toe in the 5v5.
But maybe Mac and the squad won't let it happen again now that SK is on blue because they are on match point and that Dark Clyde hanging above their heads of Mad not being able to win a domestic best of 5 last year. Broxah, what is your gut telling you when you've seen the 2 victories that Mad had so far in the series and if they'll be able to book their ticket to tomorrow?
I think Matt has been really impressive so far, and more than anything, I'm just disappointed with the SK, honestly. Like, to me, it feels like they're not drafting to their strengths at all. And for me, if SK drafts the way they did the past week, there's a good chance they can come back. But if they keep, you know, playing for an early game bot lane and trying to snowball in ways that they just haven't been able to snowball in before, then I don't see it happening. So for me, it's more like, you know, SK can decide if they want to have a chance or not. Matt have been very convincing, though.
They can just decide. Do you feel the same way?
I
feel like even if they decide they want to, they might not
in my opinion, I believe that SK have shown that they can have strong bot lanes, in particular when they were able to get things like the Elise. I just think that the question is, can they get their hands on those types of champions and can they actually play through their bot lane? Is something that I think that they haven't really been able to demonstrate in playoffs so far.
And that's the problem now, right? That they're not going to get any of those priority junglers, or at least they shouldn't, because Elise is a special case.
Blue side, baby, now's the time, Broxah.
But there's a difference between playing Elise and playing Sejuani, for example, right?
Sure.
Sejuani can still be somewhat proactive, but I think Elise is like, you know, a special patient. You can just go crazy on her.
We'll see. SK thrive when you underestimate them. So let's see if they can do it once again and if they can bring us to Silver Scrapes or if the Mad Lions will close it out.
I certainly hope they can bring it to Silver Scrapes. Blue side has won every single game this series, and for SK, they have to figure out what the answer is to the Mad Lions' creativity. Because when I have thought about Mad Lions historically in the last year or two, slightly slower team, a team that can punish mistakes, a team that comes back in the mid-game. But what we're seeing today, what we're seeing from the recent Mad Lions games is a level of proactivity, a level of aggression that I'm not used to seeing, but also a lot of champions that I don't associate with them. The Draven, the Gragas, these are champions that the players don't individually play a whole lot.
It really does feel like Mad Lions have turned over a new leaf, specifically coming into this series. Because, as you say, having way more proactivity on the map, actually setting up plays. We talked about Nisqy, how he tries to work in his mid lane, and suddenly bringing out the Gragas as well. I don't know how you try and ban out this team right now.
What will SK Gaming do? Potentially their final game of the Winter Split. They're on that blue side, and I think the Elise has been an interesting talking point because SK banned it on the blue side in game number 2. I think a bigger focus needs to be on that Zeri, that Lulu, those duo lanes that have allowed Exakick and DOS to scale up, to have a huge influence in the team fights and in the later stages of the game. And it was Varus, Jace, and Elise, the blue side bans, the last time SK were there.
Yeah, and I feel like we're going to see something very similar here as well. The problem is that we've, as you're kind of hinting at, seen a lot of firsts, right? The Elise, first time for Elyoya this split, looks absolutely fantastic on it. Carzzy bringing back out the Draven that he had the loss on, absolutely smashes on it. Gragas coming through. It feels like Mad Lions have a very, very deep champion ocean here. And when you're able to not only flex on the meta, but then also look amazing on the off-meta picks, that's where I think you're really going to struggle as SK if you win this and have to go back to red side anyway.
Yeah, I also just wonder, like, how do you beat a Mad Lions? They're constantly moving both their side lanes and converging converging on mid lane with their priority. The Hylissang roams, Chasy moving down and working with Elyoya to punish Sertuss on the opposite side. Something for SK to consider is how do we get prio in those side lanes so that we can either stop MAD from doing that or do it ourselves.
And of course, when you look at these final bans, the Jax, the Ashe, the Elise, all still currently open. SK will ban away the Nautilus, deny that option to Hylissang. And I think Sejuani is another one that is intriguing concept because Markoon undefeated this year on the pick and has found influence in the early game.
Sejuani, Elise, Ashe, all open right now. What do you want to pick? Because if all three go up, there's a real world, I think, where SK could maybe first pick the Ashe and look to trade Elise Sejuani. But at the same time, if Elise is open, I want Markoon on that Elise. He's looked so good on it. And actually, MAD Lions banning away the Ashe makes that a pretty easy decision in my eyes.
Yeah, and you said it earlier on as well, Markoon's the first to bring out this Elise as well, has been very, very good at getting these early leads, playing down towards the bottom side. Traditionally, it has been on some of these later scaling picks like the Zeri, though, that haven't been banned away. You imagine that Carzzy and Hilly can always go back towards the Lucian Nami here too. So the big question for me is, what do Exakick and DOS bring to the table? Do we finally get to see them bring out the Caitlyn, which I think a lot of teams have started to kind of say is a bit base, so maybe they try to avoid it.
Gonna avoid it this time round. Lucian Nami instead the priority. That Elise pick for Markoon, 2 games played this year, both of them victories, 6 games across his entire career. And Markoon has been the player that I look to for SK to control the early game, to generate a lead, then to take that advantage. And we're going to have an Aphelios for Exakick.
Really interesting, because I was thinking maybe it could be that Draven we mentioned a little bit earlier, but instead deciding to go the scaling route. The analyst desk was talking about this. SK needs some scaling guarantees alongside them, and that Lulu's a really nice pairing with the Aphelios.
That's actually funny because Carzzy was the one who brought out the Aphelios there last week as well. So now we're going to have to see that opposite side. I think you've got great early game pressure from the Elise, but it does feel to me that you're going to be leaning away from bottom lane in this one. Just give Exakick time to scale. I think this is where Irrelevant, probably going to see a Jax ban here, but it feels like Irrelevant going to be going back towards a carry, maybe even something like the Camille that we've seen from him prior as well.
This is really interesting though. Again, we saw this when SK was on red side, taking Gragas on R3 with the Elise first pick the MAD Lions went for. Now this is a technical triflex for the MAD Lions because we just saw Nisqy play that in the mid lane, but I'm wondering if this is something that teams have discovered or learned if Elyoya takes this Gragas into the Elise, because I wasn't particularly impressed in game number 1 by that Gragas pick. Was able to match the Elise and kill her on 1 counter gank, but apart from that, it wasn't super effective.
And I think when you look at Nisqy's Gragas and you look at Caps running the mid lane Ornn, if I remember correctly, that mid lane sort of front line tanky sort of option has the ability to impact those side lanes, has the ability to move around, and it's going to be Akali and Jax the last bans.
This is the first time this entire series that Irrelevant Sion has been left up and available. When you've got an Aphelios there, you want that big tanky front line, the ability to just run through, and as well, I mean, Lucian won't get through that Sion in the late game, so I feel like this is the moment where Irrelevant could bring it out.
But surely it's Sejuani Vibans here, removing a lot of options for the MAD Lions in terms of jungle. Could end up seeing it, but no, actually we're just super happy to play Elise into the Sejuani. I still feel like even though like Elise does get to run over that matchup kind of as she does most matchups, having that reliable engage power is something I'd remove.
This says to me they're setting up for a Silas pick in the mid. Use the double CC that you have, try and punish Nisqy heavily in the mid lane, and then make sure that you can actually step up, have this great late game team fighting with the Aphelios alongside the Sion. We'll have to see if that's going to be the game plan, especially as you go towards the K'Sante here. It feels like you can just match tank for tank.
Yeah, still leaving it up for debate where necessarily that Gragas is going to be. But yeah, I'm wondering now, because they do need that front line. I think Sion is a reasonable answer. Gnar, something they've played before as well. Olaf, sure. I mean, with a Lulu there, you definitely would be happy to play something like that. But the Sion is a little bit too tempting, I think, to ignore here with it being left open.
But I think the problem is for MAD Lions, if you end up putting this Gragas into the mid lane, your DPS is so low to try and get through this Sion. And especially as the Azir is now going to be taken away as well in this mid lane, it looks like you're kind of looking at Nisqy going, okay, well, what can you bring to the table that can actually have an answer?
Waiting to find out. Of course, if this Silas is locked in, that is a great denial to Nisqy, and talked a little bit about the anticipation that could have been one of the options. Instead, going to flip back to the Azir. Nisqy, what is he feeling? A great front-to-back composition here from SK Gaming. Great front line, great back line, but if they are ever behind, if anyone from the MAD Lions can get past that front line, Those are two low mobility champions that are very juicy. Nisqy, final lock-in will be that Viktor. Okay, zoom out. What do you make of the compositions?
Well, I do think the Viktor is just the right call here as opposed to putting the Gragas in mid lane. You need some way to match in the later stages of the game in terms of damage. You need some way to kill this Sion. Sion's still not going to be super easily killed by Mad Lions, but at least having some percent HP burn with the build here on the Viktor can give you some options in removing that frontliner. But all things said and done, I think SK are absurdly happy with how this turned out, right? They get the scaling in mid and bot lane, Irrelevance back on the side, and Markoon has the Elise. He has been so strong this year on that champion, and I'm looking to him to be the spearhead for SK this game.
Yeah, I feel like it's basically a case of Markoon match where Elyoya is, just allow your lanes to settle in, get to that later portion of the game, you should be fine. If you hit 3 items, you pretty much auto-win on SK's side.
Oh, can they survive long enough? Can they withhold and withstand Mad Lions' laning phase and their ability to move around the map? We have seen Mad Lions somewhat outclass SK in their rotations, in their pressure, pushing that vision deep, playing aggressive and on the front foot. SK, they got a lot of their signature picks that have pushed them all the way here to this 3rd, 4th place decider in playoffs. And for SK, their backs are against the wall, and this is do or die. Win, we go to game 5, lose, they are eliminated from the
SK have to find a way to reset after that devastating game number 3 loss. They're feeling good after the draft, and let's jump straight in to game 4 and see if SK can push us to a 5th.
And unfortunately, as soon as the players loaded onto the Rift, we do have a brief pause. This is actually good for me personally because I want to ask.
Oh, make it all about you, Trevor. Go right ahead.
I want to ask you guys what expectations you have for Markoon on this Elise. Because when I look at SK, I really feel like their early game is single-handedly controlled and decided by whether or not Markoon can find an impact, can find an influence. It feels to me like if he isn't able to gank multiple lanes and to generate some form of a lead as a team, SK are unable to have that positive influence, which is why they've fallen behind so often.
Yeah, I don't see a world where SK can really get a lead in the early stages here. It's incredibly hard just because you've got winning bot lane coming through for Mad Lions. The mid lane, maybe you can make a play at 6 with Elise and try and abuse the fact that Viktor is very short range, but realistically, you should have flash, you should be fine. So a huge amount of this for me is more so about Elyoya being tracked throughout the jungle, making sure Markoon is keeping him in check and trying to play counter to wherever this Gragas showed up. Because if you just end up having these long extended laning phases, I mean, double thumbs up for me. You're in a great spot if you're SK.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the scaling, you look at the front-to-back team fight and the relative ease in terms of execution. That's what SK will be hoping for. Quick update for you. Elyoya did report some client performance issues, and league officials are currently investigating.
The client having issues?
I'm not certain exactly.
That can't be right.
But I think for me, I mean, Ender, Elyoya in the previous game just completely ran away. Multiple successful ganks in the bottom lane. He dominated and then unlocked the Draven to push that advantage further.
He was an absolute fiend in that last game. I do think this will be a very different look. Again, kind of like you're alluding to, maybe a little bit of quieter early game. Interestingly, Elyoya is still going for that Dark Harvest Gragas, so a little bit of a fun one seeing here, day 1 of finals weekend. But also, looking at these summoners, I know you guys can't see this, but Exakick has barrier in the bot lane, DOS has heal, there's a cleanse and a heal on the Mad Lions side as well, so it's all these defensive summoners. It is really hard to find a way to actually kill these bot laners.
I mean, especially with the cleanse for Carzzy, it's literally just for the cocoon. Like that, and maybe the whimsy that can come through as well, but you're not really going to be utilizing this apart from, hey, we want to get control of bot and I want to make sure I can either get away from something that goes awry or actually be able to follow up with a play. So realistically, I think the big story here is Mad Lions. Can they get the early lead and can Elyoya be that difference maker that he has been for Mad Lions thus far?
Well, for Mad Lions, a win here will push them into a matchup against Koi tomorrow. looking to run the entire playoffs bracket. I can see the game has been unpaused. We're loading up right now. And Dagda, 4 or 5 members of Mad Lions pushing towards SK.
And they're going to be able to get the vision down here. Nisqy going to be able to put down the Scar Ward just over the wall. For anyone who doesn't know, aim for the little circle that's on the snail. It'll put it immediately over the wall. But the big one is, I think for Mad Lions, just great to see them back in action. The fact that they look so strong, especially when they win spring and summer in 2020, then they get summer 2021. To see how disappointing 2022 was with failing to make playoffs in spring, immediately getting knocked out in summer with those 2 best-of-5 losses, to see Mad Lions performing to what is a level so many people expect them to reach is fantastic to see.
Just before we actually start any of the trading in the laning phase, I think both of these teams really exceeding preseason expectations. SK, obviously a gigantic surprise in terms of how far they've been able to make it, how many teams they've been able to push. And for SK, they are now looking to withhold Mad Lions, force us to that game 5. Can they stall this game out, let their scaling play into their favor? You can already see this bottom lane already still trading about to begin. Carzzy and Hylissang played very aggressively every single game this series.
It's been a really bloody 2 versus 2, but on that SK point, they're such an interesting story because preseason, I think community didn't have super high expectations, but the streets here in Europe were talking. The streets were telling us that SK were looking really hot in scrims, they were gonna show up, find ways to beat you. Teams had a lot of respect for them and their prep coming in early on.
And even Markoon echoed that in Euphoria, right? He said, after 2 weeks of scrimming with these guys, I thought we could win the split. We could be the ones that go the distance. Exakick kind of brought that back down. I was like, I was happy with 7th or 8th, but I'm glad to see
they're doing better than that.
Definitely exceeded that.
I mean, look at this. Exakick and DOS at level 1. Trading very aggressively into Carzzy and Hylissang. They've used the barrier, they've used the heal, and they've managed to push the duo back under their tower. There is also Markoon making his way into the jungle of Mad Lions.
Oh yeah, clearing away wards for the time being. Should be able to get a second one really easily here. Oh, he knows Gragas is here. Because there's a second ward, there's no way both bot laners place those wards. So he tracks Elyoya off of that. Elyoya is able to tick up to 3 here, but it's really hard to stick around. And because Elyoya's pathing went Raptors to blue to Grump, Wolves are contestable for Markoon.
And of course, while that's all going on, Nisqy's taken some trades from Sertuss in the mid lane. Nisqy pushed all the way back. Markoon running into 2 members of the Mad Lions. Repels up, drops down. Look at the minimap. Carzzy's making his way into the jungle, and Markoon is caught in enemy territory. Nisqy chasing forward, flashes, gets the Q down. Tower hits as well as the laser, and first blood secured by Nisqy, and the red buff as well.
Fantastic play there. Elyoya and Hylissang track Markoon and shut him down. That is your only job playing against an Elise in the early game, is make sure your lanes are covered against the dive and you can move and punish her if he walks into her jungle.
And a big overstep from Markoon as well. There was no need to overforce that. You got Gragas back, you're allowing Exakick and DOS to crash this wave, which is the big win. Now you don't get to crash this. Carzzy and Hylissang are going to hit level 3 and can go very aggressive in this bottom side now that you've got Gragas moving down here as well.
Remember, we talked about it. Elyoya needed to look for some sort of advantages. Could Markoon control him, track him, prevent him having the influence? The fact that he overstepped and the response from Mad was so great allows that first blood to be secured. I think very importantly as well, Nisqy picking up that red buff, allowing him to gain some additional pressure in that mid lane because he was being bullied and pushed back by the early levels of Azir.
It is nice that Markoon is able to run in, steal the enemy red buff. Didn't have an opportunity to look for a topside gank. Think really hard to lock down Chasy and have enough burst damage to manage a kill versus that champion. But it did leave the bot lane a little bit vulnerable. Actually, Markoon is pathing back towards the bot side, is very concerned about what could be going down in the 2 versus 2 with how far forward that bot lane has been pushed. And also, because on this Aphelios, in order to get the lifesteal back and actually heal away when you take those big early chunks trades, you almost are forced to push the wave early on. So they're trying to punish a lone Hylissang sticking under the tower.
This was a really good play from Carzzy and Hylissang though. Because the early invade went on, Exakick and DOS didn't get to crash the wave. Now Markoon's called back down to the bot side, although he'd love to be clearing his top end of the camps and And yes, you get the crash, but Carzzy's already reset. He's coming back with the advantage that he needs, and Elyoya is now looking top.
I mean, look at the advantage built up in that bottom lane. Plus 15 CS, a couple plates already secured, and Markoon still waiting in the wings.
No
the
way.
minion wave is being cleared out relatively quickly. Carzzy is caught out. Cocooned, dropped to 210 hit points. Markoon now starting to back away as Hilly is trading with those autos. Exakick takes himself a
tanking?
turret shot. All of a sudden, Carzzy and Hilly step forward. Summoner heal used. Flash out from Carzzy. He's
No
looking
way.
for DOS. Defensive flash used. Carzzy is taken down by Exakick, and the assist as well for Markoon.
Oh, Carzzy thought he had an outplay, but he reached way too hard, flashing in, and SK shut him down. If Carzzy and Hylissang just big chilled down there, they would have been totally fine, because look at the top side of the map, completely open here for the Gragas to take, but now Elyoya has to try and look for some kind of response gank on the top.
Relevant is level 6, flash available to him. We'll just use that unstoppable onslaught to run away to safety. We're unable to find the play, but this was Mad Lions trying to force out Markoon, and they just went too far.
I mean, great setup with the Gravitum from Exakick. Immediately Markoon gets to land the damage that he needs. And Carzzy knows, look, this is realistically over. Could try and maybe wait for Nisqy to get down there, but try to make the play happen. DOS just flashes away before the double shot comes through, and then Exakick able to finish off the last little burst.
I think maybe Carzzy misprioritizing right there, because Exakick is the one with barrier. He sent the piercing light onto the Aphelios, but the barrier comes through, and then he switches focus to DOS. If he had initially tried just hit DOS, I think that was a kill. I don't think that initial piercing light actually clipped the Lulu.
And of course, because of the fact that Carzzy and Hilly have been playing this style all series long, Carzzy has been on the front foot. He was one of the almost like initiators into Game 3 a little bit earlier in the series, stepping forward, using that range, using the movement speed from Nami. SK anticipate it, they outplay it, and they managed to continue to hold that lead. BF Sword, as well as a 700 gold advantage. I saw Sertuss, as well as Markoon, making their way towards the bottom lane, but Elyoya, level 5. Chasy caught out underneath the tower, is forced backwards by Irrelevant, who has the flash available to him. Irrelevant stepping forward, trying to get some more damage, and there's a potential dive on the cards in the bottom lane, Ender.
Yeah, this could be trouble. Elyoya has the flash. I think DOS was trying to scout it out. Still a long way away towards level 6, and Markoon is not close enough, but they're going to call this one off. Not seeing an angle right there because Elyoya doesn't have access to level 6. They're just too close to the tower to actually threaten bursting down for a kill.
Of course, not unlocking that ultimate just yet. Small advantage, 10 creeps for Elyoya versus Markoon. The fact that Markoon's been able to at least be involved in that kill despite the deficit, it's only 200 gold. He's nowhere near this bottom lane, and Elyoya is still sticking around.
They're trying to walk it in bot side at the same time. Big wave crashing up towards top, so Markoon is looking for the gank onto Chasy. Chasy hasn't based in a while, and he's so low.
He's got no ghost available to him. Irrelevant
Dive bot side
ultimate
too.
not available just yet. Bot lane dive as well. DOS, no sums available. Cocoon lands. Chasy goes all out. Manages to survive long enough for SK to start backing
He's out
away.
there.
Down in the dive in the bottom lane. Carzzy's able to pick up the kill onto DOS after he flashed away, and Exakick will be the next juicy target. So incredibly low, and Mad Lions just waiting for the minions to move forward, dash forward, and the kill secured by Elyoya.
And that's going to be such a big wave that you lose here from Mad Lions. Not only that, you can crash, reset, and try and make sure that you're able to get more control with all that extra damage that you picked up thanks to those kills. Really nice job here from Mad Lions and the Dragon to boot.
But Markoon just on the wrong side. I mean, trying to dive and kill a Cassante. I understand there's a big wave pushing in. Irrelevant had been struggling in the matchup previous to that big trade he took on the top side, but your bot lane is left out to dry. When it comes to the scope of this game, Sion is irrelevant. It's only down to Exakick. He is the late game carry, and the fact that he's punished so hard in bot side just shows you don't want to trade away from that duo lane.
Also, a lot of that mid-game power from Mad Lions does come from Carzzy, so the fact that they've managed to right the wrongs there from Carzzy in that bot side is going to help out massively in actually being able to have some sort of impact with this Lucian. If you'd had Markoon here, it could have been a very different story.
Yeah, I mean, Nisqy also threatening to move on down, actually gets called off the play. DOS is so low that they're comfortable. DOS also really early on the polymorph. No one's tanking tower, no one's actually used skill shots. He thought he was just going to get one shot by Elyoya, so I understand why he pulled it off, but the only way you stop a dive was with that.
Oh, the stun comes out. Sertuss forced to flash away. Stays alive long enough despite using that Emperor's Divide. Now in the bottom lane, Markoon, while that dive in the bottom lane was going on, Markoon did secure the Rift Herald. This will be be dropped nearly instantaneously. Get the charge off, and if you look at the minimap, Hylissang had already started the roam, so not here to support Elyoya and Carzzy.
Markoon trying to punish the roam of Hylissang. Gets a lot of gold off of that Herald, but at the same time, Elyoya is tracking, so there was no option to dive Carzzy. Carzzy was not isolated in the bot lane. Elyoya is making sure to cover the lanes that are in trouble when Hylissang moves to roam.
I mean, take a look at this, right? 92 CS to 82 in the middle lane. Sertuss been able to generate a minor advantage. Exakick is up 500 gold for now. Multiple ganks, multiple amounts of pressure applied to try and maintain the lead, but we are dead even in gold at the 10-minute mark.
And I think the big thing here is that SK, because they got that early Rift Herald, are going to be creating Exakick.
Tidal Wave will connect. Carzzy a little bit further away. The root comes down, barrier still available to Exakick, throws out the Moonlight Vigil, may be able to at least pick up one kill. Flash used by Hylissang to stay alive, and Carzzy runs down Exakick, and then the easy kill for the Mad Lions.
That is an NT if ever I've seen one out of Exakick, but just can't hold his own in the 1 versus 2. He's actually still ahead in gold with the Bloodthirster completed off the back of that one, but it's all starting to fall a bit apart. Gold overall still relatively close to SK, but just play after play, Mad Lions are continuing to find angles.
I think the thing is, though, the goal is even, and the fact as well that you haven't been able to crack open these towers or really get much damage onto these towers is a big win for SK. If you can extend these laning phases out and just keep farming, get to 1.5 items before you leave lane, the damage that Mad Lions can really do is going to be mitigated before your composition comes online.
The thing is, about those compositions, because of how well SK have shown individual plays, individual performances, at least across the first 2 games or so, it is going to be a challenge, I think, for Mad Lions to create those environments and those opportunities to get past the Sion, get past the Emperor's Divide. If SK can just mechanically outplay, their composition will do so much in these 5v5 skirmishes.
SK will continue to scale. At the same time, Carzzy, the second the ult comes online, you can see him and Hylissang moving around the map. Like, that ult can just one-shot the bullets, do so much damage. Elyoya too, there's a lot of burst on the side of Mad. So anytime they have these windows to move around the map, they're going to try to punish. A great reverse, though, from SK, but they can't quite, they nail him!
That was beautiful from Exakick. Times it where he's just got enough bullets to get the Gravitum off. Immediately swaps over to the Calibrum, and that's where Aphelios is most dangerous, but Markoon's in danger and he's out of there!
Completely blown up, just set up by Elyoya. All out is used by Chasy, continuing to damage out Irrelevant. Still got hundreds of hit points, not really under kill threat for now, but Chasy as well as Irrelevant continuing to scale, farming, dead even. It will be important for Irrelevant in the team fights to create the disruption, to create the pressure on the backline, buy time for Sertuss and Exakick to get the damage down. Exakick still with that lead, nearly 1,000 gold. You have to keep track of his positioning and the damage he's dealing in these fights.
And even though Markoon just got absolutely exploded, they've got the right idea. Look out, Hylissang. Important ward not to just get instantly deleted like we saw a second ago. But Markoon now playing towards the right side of his map, camping for Exakick, knowing you have to continue to get him money, get him gold in the pocket. A minute away from a Drake. I think Mad Lions are just going to take any fight they can. At the moment, Elyoya feels so powerful with the Night Harvester finished off 2-0-2. Dark Harvest and Red Smite, so the burst damage is extreme.
You really need to get Exakick on the reset, though. He's been sitting on this BT for a while, a lot of gold in his back pocket, and you've got Dragon now in 30 seconds. DOS.
Oh, that's a lot of damage. The Culling's thrown down as well.
Whoa.
Another engage inside the jungle. Cocoon lands perfectly, and Sertuss gets himself the kill. Exakick and DOS able to escape with their lives, but Carzzy stepping forward, got that Gale Force, and got them chunked out low.
Nisqy just had 5 seconds left before his flash came off of cooldown. Sertuss punished him, and now Irrelevant. This is what I was talking about. Get your top laner out of top lane. He wants to dive Mad Lions.
He's coming in from behind. Irrelevant is laning through the Mad Lions side of the rift, but there's no minions to work with. Carzzy's been able to clear them out. The Q knocks up a couple. Elyoya is chunked down low. The Soul Furnace almost enough to pick up the kill, but Irrelevant now stepping forward. Zombie mode may be so important. Already got himself 1 kill. The rest of SK looking to take down the tower. Irrelevant stays alive a few seconds longer. The tower is secured, and it will be Irrelevant finally killed. Is there any further follow-up here? SK happy with the kills and the tower and the backing away.
I mean, Irrelevant trading 1-for-1 right there is just 1v9ing because his team just got a turret in the bot lane. Markoon and Sertuss were both pushing it, so that turret's low as well.
And I love that we got a preview of things to come. Irrelevant, 30 seconds, just standing with 4 members of Mad Lions around him, and he gets a kill on the way out. This is exactly where SK want to be, and now with more gold going to Exakick, now you can start to look towards Dragon, you start to look towards the Rift Herald, and the fact that you have so many opportunities to get these key carries ahead, it's coming out tops for SK.
Yeah, Mad Lions are going to be taking this Drake. Looks like SK are prioritizing the Herald for the money you can give them, breaking open some of these turrets. Again, ideas for SK to try and snowball the game forward. It really does come down to like how can they play around the Cocoon, finding picks in enemy jungle, things like this, finishing off the turrets on the opposite side of the map. And again, as these turrets continue to fall, that gives more and more room over for Irrelevant to look for those roam timings. It's been something missing from SK, is him shifting down with the rest of his team, but that was a really good look at what he is capable of when he does decide to move in.
I actually thought Markoon was immediately going to move up topside here, but it doesn't matter. SK just get to take this tower without the help of the Rift Herald. So suddenly now you can start to set up a play in the mid lane, get that turret, have Irrelevant try and roam down once more once that ultimate comes up and available. Markoon having that Night Harvester now means his threat under this tower, his burst damage, is absolutely absurd. So Mad Lions need to be very careful about how they're positioned around the map, because SK are going to look to outnumber them wherever they possibly can.
I think it might be nice for Markoon just to sort of hold on to the Herald for the time being. Mid lane tower is very low. They should be able to get that at some point. But what Markoon can do, and he's actually done before in this series, is Mad Lions are constantly looking for angles they can group up for something. Having the Herald on the other side in a different lane gives you the ability to threaten multiple towers against them and punish Mad Lions for trying to make a play.
And for SK now, with the 2,000 gold lead, with the Rift Herald available to be used, they need to excel in this mid-game. Throughout the series, Mad Lions have, I think, generated more advantages, have been able to play more successfully around the Rift once it's opened up. And it's up to SK to turn this one around. Step further forward. They get themselves the third and final outer turret, and that is huge for opening up the Mad Lions jungle.
Especially for SK, because they really struggle to actually play on side lanes. Azir doesn't really want to be there, Irrelevant doesn't really have push, so the fact you can now set up vision through mid-push into sides and make sure that Sertuss and Irrelevant can be safe means you get to buy space, you get to buy deep vision as well for the likes of Dragon that's going to be up in 3 minutes, because that is the break point here for SK. That's the thing they're looking at.
Honestly, I think SK jumped the gun on that Rift Herald. They had full prio over side lanes. They brought 5 players in the mid, it was 5 versus 3, and they still had to use that to kill a turret on a 3rd HP. Not fully convinced by that. That being said, Mad Lions do have insane wave clear, right? When it comes to the Viktor and the AP Gragas in the jungle, like that is absolutely no joke in future siege situations.
I think it's just a so short range. I'd be terrified of a barrel or a flash engage from Elyoya into someone, and you just don't have the chance before you're blown up.
It's just without Nisqy and Chasy there, I don't know. I think it maybe could have been used to try and break a tier 2.
I mean, if you look at the minimap for now, 1-3-1 at 17.5 minutes. We're 2 minutes to go until the next dragon. Mad Lions have already got 2 underneath their belts, so we're looking at SK. How do they play these side lanes? How do they apply pressure? And can they actually, you know, pull Mad Lions out of position and use that Elise or use that Sion to set up a pick? For now, it is still just stuck in this sort of sterile laning phase. Advantages for Irrelevant, for Sertuss, for Exakick. They're all up 700 gold, 1,000 gold. And SK have got the scaling on their side as well. So they're in a great position in Game 4, looking to take us to Game 5.
So one thing that is nice for Mad Lions, as they are the ones currently on the back foot, is actually because of the role we got in terms of the map type with the dragon and it being infernal, it's actually way harder for SK to set up inside Mad Lions enemy jungle. If we could go over to Mad Lions blue buff right now, ask our lovely observers to send us there. Because of the openness of the terrain, not breaking lines of sight, because of the lack of bushes as well, when the main pick tool from SK is just a cocoon, usually an Elise has to be inside of a brush or behind a wall where they have vision over it to actually try and set up a pick. You can see it right here. So they have this bush really to play with, and then it's very hard to actually continue to push in. So as we look forward to future Drakes, which we know Mad Lions already have 2, they want to try to play to find a soul, it is not so simple for SK to take full control of the enemy jungle like we've seen both teams do in previous games.
Potentially the silver lining of this rift, Sion may be able to do the speedway turns just a touch more, whether or not he can find the members of Mad Lions to engage on. You saw SK pushing some vision into Mad Lions jungle. That has been contested and challenged, and it is Mad now setting up. They were the first ones into the river, 45 seconds until the dragon spawns, and it's all about mid lane control.
Chasy dropped topside. They really want to find the 5v5 before they get into river. SK haven't had the reset for Exakick. He's still on 1.5 items.
Remember, that Gragas barrel will be huge. Sertuss has got the Emperor's Divide available, dancing on the edge of safety. Irrelevant and Exakick need to sidestep outside of that gravity field. Culling is dropped by Carzzy, but the Sand Soldiers putting out so much damage.
Mad Lions have superior wave clear, so they were able to push through, but now SK sacrificing their health bar so they can hit the wave first. That's big for them if they can move in, but I think Markoon's just too low. This Drake might just go over to Mad Lions.
Oh, this is very scary. Still looking for that fight. The Moonlight Vigil fired out from Exakick. Red blue gun stepping forward, threatening the Mad Lions members. And all of a sudden at 20 minutes, Baron is up. Do SK pull the trigger?
Yeah, I love this. I love this. Carzzy's basing right now. He's not actually hitting Drake. SK trying to buy time for Markoon to base, threaten moving over to Dragon or Baron, so Mad Lions decide to cancel the Drake attempt. We're straight back into a Dragon dance.
This was beautiful. SK Gaming put Mad Lions on a leash, pulled them away from the Dragonside River, and once they were in the mid lane, just repositioned. Now SK, do they start off this Dragon? It is still 5 versus 5. Elyoya is in the side lane, has the ability to engage with the ultimate, but it's irrelevant. That's forced to flash away. He engages in the front line. Markoon does not find the cocoon, and all of a sudden, the bubble throws up irrelevant. He's slowed down in place, but Exakick is stepping forward. He's got the AoE, he's got the white blue guns, and it's not enough damage just yet.
The chunk is so bad, Nisqy gets knocked up, but he's still alive. Elyoya turns it straight around, he finds Exakick, but Exakick is free firing. White gun is shredding Mad Lions. SK all the way.
They have dominated Mad inside the river. The wild growth onto Exakick did so much work, and Sertuss finds another. 4 members of the Mad Lions are down.
Screw the dragon, it's Baron time for SK. Game 4 delivers, and SK are hitting Mad Lions hard.
What a turn there from SK. Exakick pumping out so much damage in that fight. It looks like maybe he was going to be the one caught out, but just holds his ground and fires back the Bloodthirster, keeping him topped up for long enough that the rest of the team could clean up.
Both of the teams were looking for the fight. They were committed to the 5v5, and ultimately it was SK that was able to land the damage and to withstand any of the potential prots that Mad Lions are throwing out.
And I love Irrelevant's positioning here. Carzzy has no ultimate, so as long as Irrelevant is taking Carzzy's attention, he can't really help out. So Exakick, as long as he stays away from the Viktor ult there, is going to be fine. And the second Irrelevant moves up once more, Exakick steps up with him, and eventually Sertuss getting involved here as well. Elyoya missing the cast, and Exakick following up Irrelevant so incredibly well here.
Sertuss was not doing a lot of damage at the start of the fight. He was just waiting for that moment. He was hiding so far back. He was, I think, in the fog of war for a lot of that fight, while Exakick was doing all the damage. But all it took was one angle to hit 2 players with the Shurima shuffle, finding a third on the back as well, and SK just got slingshotted ahead.
They've got themselves the Infernal Dragon. They got themselves the Baron. Now they are looking to take the inner mid lane turret. While that is being sieged, Sertuss, with the help of Markoon in the bottom lane, they're going to apply pressure down there. Now Nisqy, while he is pushing top lane, got that teleport available to him, needs to figure out whether or not Mad Lions want to stand and defend, because SK have got a gigantic advantage, starting to group up. It looks like they want to siege the middle lane.
Yeah, Exakick is still here with Irrelevant, so he's totally fine. Markoon now starting to move across. That's a catch.
The cocoon catches Carzzy. He's forced to use the cleanse, starting to back away. Carzzy has still got that flash available to him. So does Exakick, so does DOS. The inhibitor will be secured. And Sertuss, can he find some damage here onto Chasy? Sand Soldier's thrown out. Nisqy, by the way, is still pressuring that top lane.
Trying to get that objective bounty at the same time. Chasy clears away the minion wave. So SK can't play off of that to try and secure yet another inhibitor tower. But look at this. Nisqy in a lot of trouble. Might have to teleport out of that with Markoon sprinting his way over, and he'll be safe.
It looks like he'll just get out in the nick of time. uses that teleport though, which is another advantage to SK. So super minions in the middle lane. They've got control of the Rift 2.5 minutes until the next dragon spawns, and SK are in a position to take over.
I will say though, what could have been lost for MAD Lions there was pretty minimized by that play. The fact it's only mid lane inhibitor that goes down is pretty defendable. You've got Carzzy, you can continue to push that one out. You still got control of your side lanes, and it's very easy if you have the minions in mid lane to still leave for a dragon, to still move across for a Baron. So all said and done, I think MAD Lions were pretty happy that that didn't go worse.
Well, Exakick is looking to pick a fight here with Chasy. He finds the route. Multiple members of MAD Lions chasing the SK squad through the river. Now, does Irrelevant fancy himself and engage? 2 seconds until his ultimate is available. MAD Lions, they are at risk of being flanked, are at risk of being surrounded.
But there's no Exakick. There's no AD carry for SK.
Hylissang
They're still going for it.
A little bit late to the party here. The unstoppable onslaught comes out, the culling as well. Irrelevant gets some damage down as Nisqy's forced to move himself north. Nobody goes down just yet. The tower not secured either. And Exakick is now continuing to chase. Chasy is going to Gale Force forward.
Oh my god!
For the kill as well. And now looking to secure the tower. Yet another advantage. It's a 40-second death time now.
It's not every day you see the AD carry become the split push threat. Exakick taking matters into his own hands. The rest of SK, the reinforcements have arrived.
Keep in mind, no flash for Exakick. He used it to secure that kill. Elyoya's barrels allowing MAD Lions to pick up the kill onto Markoon. They will defend that inhibitor turret, but it's another kill. It's another objective. It's a minute until the next dragon.
And 30 seconds until Markoon comes up. Chasy will have the TP to get there. MAD Lions can actually establish themselves in river and make it a little bit more difficult for SK to come into position. As long as they control the Sjokz into river, they should be able to utilize Chasy, Nisqy having good zone control, and same with Hilly.
What do you think of Exakick flashing for that kill? I think it looks great. It says a lot about his mentality and his mindset, but I am nervous about it not being available for the next fight.
It would have been worth it if Markoon hadn't gone down. If you're able to actually get that inhibitor on the bot side, that's the play. But unfortunately now with Markoon going down, it does look a little bit suspect. Infinity Edge picked up from though is huge. That's such a big pickup for the Aphelios.
Both AD carries just finished off the IEs, even down 2k. Carzzy doesn't have the Berserker Greaves, I suppose, but has still managed to get up to 3 items. Mid lane as well. I mean, in terms of itemization, top lane's where the real gap is too. I suppose you could say support with DOS, having the Mikhail's a really nice pickup to have here to make sure Exakick has that pocket cleanse to get him out of a tough situation. I think MAD Lions just gonna have to give this one up, soak up the extra EXP they're grabbing from the super minions, just barreling down mid lane. They're in this one for the long haul.
So in terms of the state of the game, 27 minutes, it's about a 4,000 gold lead. For MAD Lions, team fights are way more nuanced, a little bit more challenging than just the straight up like front to back that SK are putting forward. How on earth do MAD Lions either set up or play out the inevitable 5v5s?
I think the thing is you don't really have dive to get back onto Exakick or onto Sertuss, unless again Elyoya is somehow finding a miracle pick where he's ulting them back into the rest of the team, but I don't think that's very realistic, especially on Infernal map when you do not have control over the game. So that's kind of gone for them. Instead, their focus has to be how do we actually kill this Sion, because that's the target that's going to be presenting it themselves to the MAD Lions frontline, and in that sense, they have a lot of good interrupts for the SK backline. When it comes to Elyoya's ultimate to sort of separate Irrelevant from his backline, that's a great tool. The Tide Away from Hylissang, another one where it has a lot of reach. It can hit the enemy backline, even if MAD Lions can't follow up onto it. So I think for them, again, it's how do we isolate the Sion for long enough that we can kill him, but I still don't think that's super realistic for them.
We're going to find out right now as Irrelevant is standing on the front line.
Got the shield.
Sertuss is pushing that top lane.
It's close.
Got himself the ability to teleport in if he wants to. Starts the recall. Does he finish the death cap? I think he might just about do it. As all of a sudden Irrelevant goes forward to the unstoppable onslaught. The death cap is picked up by Sertuss. Can have a huge impact on this fight. Not going to be able to find any of the CC just yet. Elyoya throws out the explosive cards. It does naught to stop SK. And Exakick on the front foot looking to take down Chasy, and he does. The bubble not going to be enough just yet as Carzzy's dropped below half HP. But DOS and Exa pushing way forward once again. They need to find MAD Lions. Elyoya buys some
Carzzy!
And Irrelevant going to be able to trade back and forth. But with Carzzy and Exakick down, Irrelevant's the last man standing. Sertuss stepping forward, looking to hunt Hilly. It's so far a 3-for-3. The slide, the glide, the Sand Soldier chunking down Hilly. He's got the flash available to him and will not use it. It's SK with a 4-for-3 fight.
SK come out victorious, but it's such a close fight. Carzzy comes out of nowhere and keeps it close. Regardless, though, SK show that you cannot kill Irrelevant. This man is on a different level.
And it only gets worse. You're going to have Exakick get stronger. You're going to have Sertuss getting stronger. Carzzy is starting to teeter off now. And yes, he's going towards the Lord Dominic's, but what the hell does that do against Irrelevant at this stage?
That was about the best opportunity Mad Lions have had, and they were still shut down by Sertuss in the back line.
Mad Lions use all the interrupt. Look at this. So Cass goes out, knocks Exakick back. Not back enough, though. That's a bit of a miss. Also, Tidal Wave hits him. And also, Sertuss teleported in late to the fight, and still, they take Irrelevant down to half HP, and then they have to run. All their cooldowns are gone. They're outranged, they're outgunned, they're outmanned. Nothing can happen. I think that Markoon was taken low, and the stopwatch was nice from them, but there's a slight overstep. Exakick feels himself jumping on forward, but then Carzzy sees this angle over the wall. The turnaround as well was really nice.
I think getting caught out by the ward in the bush. Wasn't expecting the pink ward to be there, so ends up getting taken down. Still though, Exakick now will have his flash open just now for this.
Just a few more seconds as Irrelevant starts the fight in the mid lane. Chasy will be a little bit late coming in from the jungle. Hilly forced to flash for his life. Doss is the only member of SK that's hurting right now. And Mad Lions are split up and routed. It's Chasy forced to use the ultimate, get some distance. And SK have got control of the mid lane. They have got control of the fights, and they are moving towards the Baron.
Man, Sion is so dumb. What is this? You can't kill him!
This is why it's been banned. Every single game this series, Irrelevant brings it out. And you know it's going back to the ban table if we get to another game.
Irrelevant's going to flash looking for Carzzy. The bubble from Hilly buys some time, but Exakick, Gale forces in to pick up Hilly's Nami. And it's keep it simple, SK. The composition is clear on how it wants to move forward, how it wanted to team fight at 30 minutes in. SK Gaming are looking to set up their second Baron completely uncontested. A minute until the next Dragon. And Sertuss once again having a huge impact. 4-0-5 on this Azir, thanks to all of the time that his team is buying him in these fights.
He's had some big fights, and for Irrelevant, regardless of how impossible it is to kill him, this guy has been finding so many opportunities, whether it was the insane roam down into bot lane all the way from top, sitting between the towers, or the multiple team fights, he's just gone, right? If he sees anyone 2 feet away from a turret, instantly jumping on them with the ultimate. He is always pressing that go button for SK, and there's a big step up compared to when he was running off of the stage after game 3.
I mean, right now, SK Gaming looking to force us to game 5. Just want to give you guys a bit of history here. It was 712 days since SK had made it to playoffs, and it's been 2,892 days since they were in the top 4. This young roster, this season is finally finding success that they haven't seen since, what, 2015?
Yeah, 2015. If they win this game and they make it to top 3, it'll be an absolute stormer for them as well. Nisqy in trouble now is Irrelevant. Just goes out.
Being run down by this top laner. The Soul Furnace shield, the burst damage is out. Nisqy is continuing to at least buy some time.
Nisqy can win this.
There is a teleport being used inside the jungle as Sertuss may look to flank with the help of Markoon. Nisqy has enough damage but will not be able to survive long enough. Irrelevant is taken down. He ends up being the 1-for-1 in the top lane.
It's worth for the moral victory, if not the shutdown, right there for Nisqy to get 600 gold in the bank too, speed running towards that Rabadon's death cap.
I will actually say though, the fact that now you don't have that tanky front line could be an opportunity for Mad Lions. If Elyoya, with this flash up soon, can get onto someone like Exakick, maybe you can slow the progress, but it feels like you're only buying time. There isn't really any big objectives that they can take right.
20 seconds before Irrelevant is up. He's got the TP available, and Hylissang is just blasted down. Stays alive a few seconds longer. Wild growth is needed for Exakick to stay alive, but Carzzy is dropped inside his base. Chasy is moving forward, but does not have the damage to take down Exakick, and SK Gaming will bounce back. SK Gaming will force us to a game 5.
Never mind, Exakick is the other tank, so SK just decide to barrel through and will manage to take us to a game 5. Blue side is OP.
4 games in a row, the blue side has come out victorious, and the second time that SK has shut down the Mad Lions. They are styling in the final seconds of play. Fountain diving for the ace, and we're going all the way, Game 5, Silver Scrapes, SK versus Mad Lions.
What a way to kick off finals weekend. SK showing up with their backs against the wall. Our closest game, I think, of the series, fighting tooth and nail through it. But once they got a lead, they never let go.
And they played it so well. Focusing on the early heralds, making sure that they're able to get those gold into the right people and stopping this game from being run away with by Mad Lions. And eventually we called it relevant, unkillable. 3 items come through. SK barrel over Mad Lions.
It feels to me like the draft has such a gigantic influence on how SK are able to play out and generate those leads. The Zeri Lulu from earlier in the series, crucial in picking up their wins. The Sion Azir, crucial this time round. SK have to do something that no team has done yet today, find a way to win on the red side, and that is going to be a puzzle that they don't have a lot of time to figure out. That is, of course, presuming Mad Lions pick blue.
Yeah, we know Mad Lions are going to
case.
pick blue. Like that's just how it's going to go down at the end of the day. Everyone wanting that first pick option, but honestly, I'm a little bit shocked with SK showing up after that. I think they showed a lot of creativity. Irrelevant unlocked himself on the map, which was such a big glow up. They are adapting, they are evolving throughout this series, and that makes them fierce coming into Game 5.
How do they handle the Game 5 pressure, the experience advantages with the Mad Lions? We're going to head to the Analyst desk to break down Game 4.
Thank you very much indeed. Silver Scrapes, we have 3 best of 5s this weekend, and the first one already hitting Silver Scrapes. I think I'm liking where this is going, but I'm liking even more what I'm seeing out of SK, being back on the blue side, making the adaptations, and I'm just so happy. The sky seems to be the limit for this team. What were the ingredients to them pushing it to Game 5?
Draft.
Draft.
All about draft.
It's a good
They
one.
adapted. They were able to pick late game. And then there was a Sion bonus as well, the championship.
And it didn't pick Lucian Nami.
Well, Lucian Nami, as it stands right now, is on a 9-game losing streak.
Lucian, I think.
Yeah, so you're right, because it has been played with a different one. That's a very important one to put in there. Either way, it's not successful at all whatsoever when we see it. And it's almost to the point where when we go into this Game 5, whoever picks Lucian, maybe they'll lose.
But we did see that Exakick had a great game, of course, maybe because of the Lucian Nami being on the other side. It wasn't by lack of trying, though, from the Mad Lions, right? They definitely still put the attention down in that bot lane, but it was Exakick and DOS.
Yeah, I thought this was really well played with the Gravitum setting it up. You know, he caught him with the flamethrower combo with it afterwards, and then it's just, okay, they're low now. Unlucky you tank that tower shot, but once again, it comes from the over-aggression with Carzzy. There is possibility for Carzzy to look for DOS with the Light Slinger on the Lulu. But unfortunately, he doesn't see it. The barrier's clutch from Exakick, and he picks up a kill. And this is where he just starts getting ahead of the items, where something like this can happen.
And it gets difficult once you fall behind versus Elise especially, because she's just going to keep coming back. And here, well, these particular clips is just Exakick, you know, handling everything by himself, finding a few openings, and then all of a sudden he's snowballing out of control to the point where he can one-shot a tank. I am pretty sure Mad Lions wish they could have done the same thing to Sion, but they were not very successful in doing so.
Probably. Really impressive out of Exakick. I think kind of, yes, on some people's radars, I want to say coming into this season, but really putting himself above and beyond as the ADC to watch, rather. We also have some voice comms from SK's 21-minute fight win. Oops.
If we can start, the turn is the best, by the way. They have good poke.
Can you... Okay.
Care flank from here. Care flank from here. Play both sides.
Play on this bush, okay?
Play from both sides. Play from both sides. But they will
need to
look on the Gragas, by the way.
Then play on the pixel. Play on the pixel.
Wait.
I'm zoned.
Need to go Gragas?
Gragas.
Joel.
I'm fine.
Kite back. Gragas eat. I'm sustaining. Kite back.
He wants to bait. Can you stop this? Wait. I'm taking health food.
I'm full tanky. I take no damage.
Look on this guy.
Gragas nulls. Start.
I will look here slowly. Look at Santa.
Nice. You can Nash as well.
I speed you.
I can help you.
Look, I'm 1 HP. Can
we get Nash?
Speed me. Yeah. Can you go base and TP to Nash? Yeah, I have a base TP.
Good job, Daniel.
Go Nash.
You guys are smurfing it. Guys, in with Aphelios, I just front line, okay?
Good job, Daniel. Is that what I heard? Damn, Daniel. Good stuff. Super calm, I want to say.
Yeah, I think that was surprisingly calm, especially considering that down in such an important fight. And it was pretty cool how at first you could hear them talking back and forth, then the fight is about to start and it's just quiet. Everyone's focused, they already know what to do because they talked about it, you know, just before. And, you know, as a result, they destroyed them.
And it's so interesting because that play right there was in such a pivotal moment, right? It was second Drake. It was this fight where MAD Lions, you have to take this because if you lose this, it's over. The game's just over. So you have to do it. And it's such an important one for SK to secure because if they win, that should just be the rest of the game in their favor. They win it, they take it, and it was.
It was very impressive. Let's talk about the MAD Lions then. I mean, I don't want to say we said it jokingly, but I think like we expect them to win a best of 5 in the LEC at some point. But it might not be today, it seems like. What's your gut?
Well, it's tricky, right? Because SK has been looking really convincingly when they draft this way, when they drafted their to their win cons and they set up bot lane. But at the same time, blue side has also won every single game today. And it's really, really hard to win draft on red because you are forced to ban Maoka and Ashe every game. So now MAD Lions can basically decide exactly how draft is going to go. And that's going to, you know, be a little bit difficult for SK to deal with because they're just not that flexible.
So is it really that tricky in the end with the blue side coming through?
Tell me.
Yeah, I think whatever team is on blue side is going to have a clear advantage going in with the bot laners and the...
So can we just call the entire playoffs?
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Okay.
G2 has side selection, right? Congratulations, G2!
Hey, that means we get a lot of best of 5s. That goes to 5 games
well,
as well.
I think it's lazy analysis. Tell me how they win from red. That's what I want to know.
Okay. I think it's going to be tricky because I don't think they're going to get. They're not going to get a strong job. Okay, fair. I mean, I guess my job here is not supposed to be easy. Well, I don't expect them to get a good jungle matchup. I don't expect them to get Siri, so they're going to have to be creative. They already showed us they can play something like the Aphelios. Maybe they have another late game carry prepared, like the Sivir, for example. But they just need to avoid picking Lucian Nami, get a solid duo on 1-2 for their bot lane, a jungler that, you know, Markoon can actually play into what is probably going to be...
I thought you were going to say can actually play.
No, into what is probably going to be, you know, a higher tier jungler. And then everything else seems fine. Like top and mid have been pretty stable. Just make sure the other roles are as well.
Okay.
I have time for mine as well?
Now you don't, now that you did that. We're going to toss the break, but we'll see you on the other end, and I'll give you the time then. We're going to listen to Silver Scrapes, and as we come back, we'll set up Game 5 between SK and the MAD Lions.
Wait, what was the penalty for throwing a hand warmer with your opponent?
On the side of MAD, so anytime they have these windows to move around the map, they're going to try to punish. A great reverse though from SK, but they can't quite nail him!
I can look on Elise. Okay, she turned.
I'm going.
Okay. Bomba!
Nice. 18-20, 18 no flash, okay, 18 no flash.
But Exakick is free firing, White Gun is shredding MAD Lions, SK all the way!
And SK Gaming will bounce back. SK Gaming will force us to a Game 5. 4 games in a row, the blue side has come out victorious, and the second time that SK has shut down the MAD Lions.